Hey everybody, it's David. Oh my gosh, is it as hot there by you as it is by me? I had to just turn the air conditioning off, and I'm not sure I'm making it through this video. Must be about, it's like a sauna. Okay, this is like doing a painting in a sauna. I did get home, but I didn't have enough time to put the air conditioning on and let it cool down, so I have to turn it off because it's way too loud. Anyways, besides that, welcome guys. We're gonna have some fun today. Hey Sue. So again, my beer, and it's all wet because it's so cold and so hot in here. So I'm just gonna wipe it down here. So again, this is from Katrina. I'm still on her beer cases that she had given me. There's another Leinenkugel, but this one is a honey lemon light. Last week it was a grapefruit, which actually was a 10. And this is gonna taste so good. I know it's gonna be a 10. It's gonna be so cool here. So Leinenkugel honey lemon light with lemon juice and oh, this is gonna taste so good. Oh yeah, that's good. A little weak. I'm gonna give it a 9 for it's not as strong a beer, but it's very very refreshing. So I'm gonna give it a 9. 9.5. We'll give it a 9.5. Thanks, Katrina. I think this is the last one of your all the ones that you've given me. So next week we'll have to get some new stuff. So let's go, and I have a bunch of things that are kind of new that I finally had gotten done. Hey, Deborah. Hey, Pamela, Sherry, and Pat. Thanks for stopping by. And so, the first thing is my website. Look at now I can do my website. Actually, they just made an update to my thing here, to my program I use, and now I can actually go through my website. Look at this. And so, if you go down here, scroll down to my website at BeckerArt.net or davidartbecker.com and see this right here, new recommended product page. So if you click on there, you go to right to my new products page. And so, and see, it goes right to there now. And these are all the products I endorsed, that I've been telling you. And you ask me, where do you get that? Where do you get that? Well, just click on one of these and it'll take you right to the website that it is. And sometimes it's at Jerry's or Dick Blick's or whatever. And so you can get the products there. All right. Supplies we're using tonight are these. They're going to be the Holbein watercolors, of course. And my brushes, and we're actually not using Stonehenge paper tonight. We are using a board, but let me show you. Well, actually, first let's go to our value study, and I'll explain the board I'm working on tonight. So let's go to our value study because, right, that's the most important thing. It's really important, and hopefully you liked my newsletter this week because we talked about the Notan and how I took your guys' photographs and I made them black and white. So here's a good example of that and how to decide on which way your middle tones are going, right? So if you look at this picture and you want to make it black and white and look for the large lights and darks and make a plan of attack on your painting, you're going to see these middle tones back here, these shadows. Those are shadows back there at the light, and I'm going to put them into the dark. See how I make this all black? That doesn't mean, again, that you're going to be making those darker than the background. It's just that this is a much simpler way of designing. Make your design sense of your painting more designy, so that I know that these darks right here, which are really a shadow on a light surface, those are going to be in the dark part of my composition. And so nothing in here in this dark can be as light as the darkest light in my light area. The darkest light in my light area is not very dark. It's maybe right here. That's my light area. And so nothing in here should be. You can maybe have a little dappled light in there. That's fine. But overall, this is going to be my darks, like you see here when I made it black and white and I posterize it. And even the shadows are part of the composition. So see how neat that composition? It's very simple composition. And it'll teach you right away to know which is first thing to do. Step one is the lights, right? You'll do the lights. You see them right there. And then the second step is my large mediums and large darks. And it's really easy too, because look I've already figured out these are my mediums and this is my darks. And this is also my medium in here when you're looking at the colored version. That's my medium darks, and so that'll be put in. Then I'll put in my darks, and then I'll put in my dark details. So it gives you a plan of attack. It's not like I do this just because you can see, but also how to then paint your painting. All right, so let's go right to it, and I'll show you what I did this afternoon. Didn't do too bad, but I want to make it a little bit different. So here's what I did this afternoon, and let me get another drink because it is so hot in here. I don't know about anywhere else in the United States, but here in Illinois, it was It was close to 100 something, and I think the heat index was like 115 or something. It was hot and muggy and just no air. It was so weird, a hot heat. Oh my gosh, look at how many of you are here today. Cheers again. Cheers, guys. I'm going to definitely need this tonight. 9.5. Very, very refreshing. I can almost see putting that over ice. So here's what I did this afternoon. These are my middle tones, right? These are part of my darks, though. So all this stuff is dark. And like I said, and maybe it's not even dark enough, but it gives the effect of your pattern, the light pattern that you had decided on. And so what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to make this a little bit darker. So then that will just be more contrasty, up my contrast on my table, my chairs, because that's what the center of interest is. And that'll just pop out then a little bit nicer than this. And here I did a little bit of a mistake. I didn't make it dark enough the first wash. Like always, that's always a hard thing. And so what am I doing this on? I told you in the beginning that I'm doing this on board. So this is crescent board, crescent watercolor board. It's just a piece of board that's cut to a standard size frame. So I can just wax it and slap it into a frame. I'm trying to get people to do that now as a watercolorist. If you can just start doing things on boards or glue your paper to a board, you can buy the cheapest, thinnest paper, and if you glue it to a board, then it becomes a really thick board, right? So that's what I'm working on. And also, this will allow me to use masking fluid. And so that's what I did also. I use masking fluid for the chairs. You can see the little light blue. I use this Holbein masking fluid. There it is in focus. This is Holbein masking fluid. It's very liquidy, and I put it into my fine line painting pen. And I had this. If you want to look at what this is a fine line painting pen. You can go to my YouTube channel, and I show you how to use this thing. They're also in my products page, and look at it for it. You can get it on Amazon. And you put the liquid in there, and then I just went and I drew with it. I just drew the lines around it on top of my pencil line. Even though some of these lines are going to be dark, I'll also do that. But I'll put the dark on after I do the big washes across everything, so I don't have to worry about the little lines. And I could put white paint on there, which I will still do anyways. I'll put white lines, and if I feel like it needs white lines, I'll do that too. But I just use this, and it makes really fine lines. And you just like drawing with it. You just fill it up. If anybody hasn't seen this yet, that's what it is. It's a fine line painting pen. It makes your little lines. You can put masking fluid in there. I could put the black in there later. I'll show you how to use it later. All right, that's a painting pen. So let's get going with our big medium, our big lights. So the light area may even be just white. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the light, which is not much, really. It's going to be a little bit here, a little bit of the floor. But I'm going to leave a lot of it white. And so then I'll go right into step 2 right away because there's not much light in this. There's not much that I have to do about it because I want to keep it light. Deborah says it's actually usually cool here. Oh, send some of it our way. Supposed to go down to 50s tonight. Currently is 70. Oh yeah, it's about 100 here. Send some of our way to the northern Chicago area. 50 miles north of Chicago. Send it that way because it is so hot. Yeah, so this brush, look at my website. You can find it in that products page I just talked about. And yeah, it's about, I think, $10 to $12 or something. You can get different sizes, the 0.05, and I'll show you how to use it afterwards. But let's get in here, do our lights first, right into our medium darks, large medium darks, because it's not much light in this one. So you can, step 1 and step 2 can go right away, because if I just keep this white light, then I don't have much to do when it comes to my light area. And so my palette is nice and dirty, so I can take a little bit of paper towel here. Hold on. How you going here? I was so happy to see that the website now works, and I can show you the websites if I need to go to the website, so I can actually click on them. It wasn't working before; it would just not work, and so finally they made an update to the program here, my broadcasting program, and it works really well now. All right, so we're gonna wet as we go along. We're not wetting the whole thing like we normally do. There is no big background. The background is dark, so I'm working my foreground here first. I get a little bit of, I'm gonna go with like a lot of the colors that are kind of there. It's kind of a greenish, greenish, and I went with more of a violety, gray, a lot of grays. but I'm going to go with more of the gray being in the warm tones. So let's do some warm grays, where I'm going to have my middle tones, and I'm going to keep some of these these areas that are like the floor here. I'm just going to keep it white, maybe with a light touch of maybe orange and violet together, making kind of like a gray, like a tan gray. You know, I'm just going to maybe do a little bit of this in here, just very, very light, just to give it a little bit of look, maybe even texture. How about some texture in there? Because it is the ground, it could be a little textury, light. Hey everybody. Hey, thanks again, Katrina. I see you're online. Thanks again for the beer. 9.5. Last week it was a 10. This one was a little bit weaker than the last week's one, but it's very good. And it's definitely needed today. Never saw a brush like that. Oh yeah, that was the cool brush we found in Bagley when I was up in Bagley, Minnesota. One of the ladies introduced me to that brush, and man, that's a great brush. It's actually, to making lines, this is the best thing you can use to make lines. It's just amazing. Like I said, I'll show you later. All right, there's my lights. My lights are done, basically, because I have most of them white. And so now let's go into our large mediums, step 2, large mediums, and that's going to be my pillars back here and the little thing right here. And so I want to kind of wet them as I go along. I'm not going to wet, all at once. I will go right into these dark areas because I'll be on top of that. So let's make a fun wash. Let's just go in there. I said I was going to use a little bit more warmer colors in this gray. So I'm going to just take some grays and warm them up with a violet here. And so over here, we're just going to kind of go in. See, it's very gray and violet. And I don't care about this area. That's going to be darker. I just want to get a little bit of like light reflecting over here. And you can see this little chandelier thingy over here. I'm not sure it's part of the architecture of the building. I'm just going to make that. I will make that a I masked it off, and so here we go with that. And so we're just going to go through here, make sure I keep the light white. I'm just make that light right there. And now while I go along, I just add color into this thing and just float it. And this board is cold press, and it's a little bit more hot press like than your regular paper. I can go right over this. This is going to be darker on this side. The tabletop is going to be also darker than the background here. So let's make this a little bit darker than last time, because I always tell you that you have to make it 20% darker than you want it. So you got to make it look wrong. So that's my problem was with this last one. I didn't make it dark enough. This one, I saw this was the second wash. This was the second wash, and it kind of like made it messy. And so if I could get the first wash, that's the better way of doing it. So try to get those washes right away. And this doesn't have to be a super, super colorful painting. I like the fact that it is a little bit more less amount of colors, more monotone. You can maybe just choose 2 colors or make it a 3-color study. And because it isn't that colorful, and I want to kind of keep it that way. I kind of like that about this scene. Let's put some water here because I want it to float. And then I'm going to make it float down, making it a little bit darker, trying to make this look like shadows. And maybe put a little bit more orange in here. I mean, it doesn't matter what color I use, but I have to use it kind of the same throughout so that this wall, whatever color it is, which is like a light gray, my shadow color can be anything, but it's got to be consistent then throughout the rest of the painting so that anything is that color of the wall has to be the same color around. So just when you put it on your palette, put enough of it so they can go a little bit farther, go right into here. And I know this looks really, really dark, but it's not going to be once you put your darks in there. This is going to be a lot lighter than you think because it dries at 20% lighter, and you have to start worrying about that because it's so important to try to get it right away and try to get the first wash and not have to go back in afterwards. Right over my chair, don't have to worry about that. These are darks, remember? That's the dark back there, and I got my shadowing right there. That's my light. Let's throw some more color in here. Let it float. Get some granulation if you can. If you can get some granulation pigment, you put that right in there. That's the time to do it. And it goes right along this edge right here of this. Oop, not into that seat. So this way you have to be a little bit more careful. I probably could have even messed that out. You know, I could mess the chair part out, but I'm just going to take my thumb, put that back in there, make it a little bit thicker. And so this will be a dark down here. And this is the pillar. And I'm starting to see that it's not, even with how hot it is in here, it's still drying. When it dries on board, it dries a little bit faster because it's not soaking in as much. Just like the Stonehenge paper, it doesn't soak in so much, so it tends to get kind of dry really quickly. And if you see sweat on my brow, it's because I am sweating up the storm. Actually, 1 second. I'm sweating so bad. Oh my gosh. Sorry for complaining here. Hey guys. Hey Maria. Hey Deborah. Elizabeth. If you got questions, please ask away. I'll look up once in a while. And so there, you know, that's hopefully dark enough, but it almost doesn't seem dark enough. I could put another wash on there later, but, you know, you try to get it right away. So this tree over here, which is sculpted, you know, they trim it. And so I will make it green. It's okay. I can make a little bit of green, but I'm going to dull down the green. So I'm going to take my Prussian blue, and I'm going to make the lightest the green first, you know, and then I'm going to take some red, put it into the green and make it not so vibrant, the green. I can make this a little bit, you know, a little bit lighter down here. I'm not going to identify the shape yet because that's going to be done with negative painting of the dark. And there's also shadow on there. I thought that was maybe 2 trees, but that's just the shadow that goes across it. So we'll get that in there later when we do the dark part of that. So I'm wetting it, put a little orange in there. Because you know how much I don't like some of these bright greens. I want it to make it a little bit more earthy green. And so I'm just going to put that in there. Nice and thick with your paint. Remember, we had a new student in class today, and it's always fun teaching new students to use enough paint. You know, it's like go in there and really plop in the paint, put the water down, and just plop it in there. You know, and that's boy, that's going to be way too light. I can't go into it now though because I lost the sheen. So if you lose the sheen, yeah, you have to wait till it dries if you want to go again in there. But maybe it'll be okay. You got to make it 20% darker. Remember, got to make it look wrong to make it look right. But maybe it'll be okay. Then we got to go down here, take some of that, also that's some of that color. Again, that dark color that's up here. And we're just going to put it in here because that's the dark part of that vase, or the big, huge vase, or planter. I should say planter. There's some shadowing. And I want to make this a soft edge, so I'll just add water. See, I'll just add water there. And get nice and soft right there. So I'm adding it as I go along. I didn't wet everything out at first, and I will put the shadows in there a little bit later. So that's hopefully dark enough, maybe a little bit darker. Cheers, everybody. Oh my gosh, look at my arm. I'm sweating. I never did a painting in a sauna before. See, you can actually do a painting in a sauna. I wish I had a thermometer in here because I bet you it is close to 100 degrees in here. Which you should make it less time to dry, right? And so I think that's my middle tones, my big middle tones. I'm going to put a couple of little washes right here for the shadowing. They can be soft edged. So I'm just going to throw a couple of those in here. Just a little bit of the shadowing. It's going to be a little bit more because there's a lot of the thing about this scene is the chairs are the metal is so bent, and that frilly stuff is really cool looking. But you see how I went through, and I'm not getting objects. I'm not painting objects piece by piece. I'm painting areas because that's what the no-tan shows me. You know, knowing that this is all my darks, my lights are all down here. They're all going to stay light. This is my dark, so I know that this is going to be darker than the light, right? As long as I keep it that way from this point on, I'm fine. It doesn't have to be quite as dark as the photograph, but I kind of liked it where this one kind of pushed back there a little bit. Thanks, David. I hope you like the process. And had a lot of compliments this week about my teaching methods and stuff. And I had a couple new students in class this week, and it's fun to see people liking and enjoying my teaching process, and they're learning something. And that's why I do it. So I'm taking my small brush now and going in here and getting that same green. Since I have it, it's kind of a yellowish green. And I'm going to put that over here because there's a bush right over here that will be, I'm gonna put that in there now. And this side is kind of dark, and so I'll do that right away too. Why not? Because now I'm at my big dark stage. That was my big medium stage, and this is step two. Step one again is the lights. Step two is the large darks and the large mediums. And I usually do mediums to dark first though. So it's the large mediums and large darks. And so that's what this is right now. I'm going in here, getting the larger mediums and darks. And actually, when you're doing this, you can also get textures and you can do details too to that little big part. You have to sometimes because you can't get everything all at once sometimes, or make it just that certain thing. Sometimes you got to go do all three steps at once: detail, darks, and a few of your lights. Go around your lights. So it's not like every painting you do is the exact same, though the steps are the same. Where I do the lights first and the mediums and then the darks and then dark details. Those always stay the same. All right, so now our large darks. And since I'm not going to wait for it to dry, I'm just going to get some of it to be soft edged. That's okay. I'll just go thicker with the paint. So now I have to do the darks, the large darks. And I'll negative paint this tree right here. And if I want to have more texture in there, like it is kind of that, I could also just take and spatter a little bit in there. So that's what I think I'll do. While it's starting to dry here a little bit, if I take and spatter a little bit, it will spatter some neat texture in there. So I'm going to take a piece of paper towel. And put it right over here because I don't want my spatter to go on this part of the painting. So I'm taking a little bit of water and a little bit of paint, and I can take some dark green. I feel like I'm talking pretty fast today because I want to get done because it's so hot in here. All right, let's see if we can't. All right, so let's put a little bit. See how the little dots came in there? I'm spattering water, plus now I'll spatter a little bit of something darker. Not quite that dark. You can also take a toothbrush, which I don't have on me at the moment. You can take a toothbrush and go like this across the toothbrush. Dale Popovich, one of the artists that teaches a lot online here, he also does that a lot with a toothbrush. I'm going to go up here and just get a bunch of texture. I know I got it in there, which I should have covered, but I can probably rub that off really easily. You can just plop down. Exactly, that's starting to dry already, so I can just plop down and get rid of that. Wow, that dried fast. It must be really hot in here. All right, so there's a little bit of texture. I even get it down there. Didn't cover it well enough, but that's gonna be a little bit darker there, anyways. All right, so now let's get our dark darks, our large darks. And when I say dark, I want it really dark. So I'm gonna go over on this side and just start in here. And this is the second part of step two. First is the middle tones, now you go for the darks. And so I'm gonna wet this as I go along. Wet it with a color, and then I'll drop a bunch of other colors in there too, because I just don't want to have one color. I'll put a little bit of warmth in there. Just get in there and get these nice and dark. And let it float so that you have a really nice looking wash. Remember how important it is to get a really nice looking wash. And that, to get granulation, is just to go and really try to let the pigment float and do its own thing. Let's do a straight line here. Come down. I'm going to go around this tree, this bush right here. Negative paint that part of the bush. Put a little bit of blue in there, make it even darker. And then I can negative paint this chair in there. Or I know I didn't put any masking fluid there, but I could do that later. My gosh. We can do this chair. I can put in with paint, with white paint, like the seat or the chair arms. And also the back, I didn't get that in there, so I can put that in there later. But see how nice and dark that is now? And I figured that all out. Remember, you figured it all out in the beginning when I was doing my turning the page black and white. because that shows me the design. That just shows me how it's going to look design wise. And when I there's the chair back here, and then there's a shadowing on the floor of the leg maybe. And this is another potted plant right there. All right, this is kind of crooked. Let me turn this sideways for a second so I can make it a little bit sharper and a little bit straighter. I like to turn the palette sometimes, or the paper, so I can make an easier straight line going straight like this. I'm not sure what those things are. It's part of the architecture of the building, so that's fine. All right, now let's do this side. There is also a dark that goes right next to the chandelier. I might as well put that in there right away. Shouldn't be using a round brush for a straight line like that. I use a flat brush. That way I don't have to worry about the pressure of my brush as I'm putting it down. Thanks, Maria. Let's see if it is a real loud. Let me see if you guys think this is too loud. I'll tell you when it's on. And if it's too loud, I will turn it off again. Well, that right there is a train. I think. Yep, the train came by. It didn't blow his horn today. The train didn't blow his horn. All right, the air conditioning is on. Can you hear that? Is it too loud? If it's too loud, I will turn it off. This microphone really picks up a lot. Let me put the microphone closer to my mouth. Here's the microphone. I'll put that closer to my mouth, and that way you'll hear that more better. All right, so now we're going down here. Thank you, guys. Thank you for letting me put the air conditioning on. And my Leinenkugel lemon light. Thank you, Katrina. All right, thanks. Glad you can't hear it. And so now we're going in here, and I'm negative painting this tree, and I'm just putting a lot of water down with a lot of pigment, letting it float. And see how by going over that, now I'm conducting the tree, or I'm making the tree, I'm creating the tree by making it dark, negative painting of that. And so you're going to have to make it, not so straight, make it, you're negative painting the pine needles. And I'm going to just plop in a lot of nice color in there. Oh, that feels so nice. Thanks, guys. I thought it was really loud. And then we're going to go down here. So there's a tree, and then I'll put the shadowing on there later when I want a different kind of shadowing on there. I was going to make it not so perfectly straight, but that's the kind of tree it is. I mean, they shaved it like really nicely like that, so sometimes it's okay because it was sheared like that way. And so now we're getting to the detail stage, right? Because we have all the big darks. Actually, the tabletop, I'm going to do the tabletop now. And so if you see, the tabletop is a little bit darker over here. And so what I'll do is I'll just kind of come in here, wet it with a color. And I'm going to do opposite. I'm going to make this background that isn't really darker. So I will make this, I will make it darker. I'll make this come in here a little bit darker. Top of the chair. And so I'll make it go from a dark to a light, gradate it. And then there are some stuff on top of the table, and I'll just either put that in with opaque colors. I've got my gouache here. I've got my gouache set, and I'll just use my gouache set, and I'll just make a thick thing over that. And so now we're going in here, and you notice how this this masking fluid by Holbein, look at how it repels the water. Isn't that great? not many masking fluids do that, where it repels it. So it also makes it better. So when you clean it off of there, you don't have paint on it, so that you can rub into the area that you just put the paint on to keep it away. So I find it to be really, really good. And actually using that brush, it makes it really nice. And in a second, I will show you when we get to the details how to use that brush. And so we're still doing the big parts, and I'm going to go in here now and do a few little. That brush is so small. I don't like using that kind of brush this early. So now the architecture of this building back, or the post back there, I'm going to make them a little bit darker so I can show that what the side is, what the front is, making it the same color. So I'm just taking a really wet wash, not very, more of a tint, and just putting a little bit of a detail in there, like to show the side of the post compared to the front of the post. It just has to be a tint. You don't have to put a big wash, just a little tint. Same thing with these little markings of the post right here. I can make this front a little bit darker. I'm just applying a tint. Tint meaning more water than paint. Now I'm also put these little lines in here. And I know it's just a very light thing, but it's enough, and it still shows it to be clean then too. Oh, look at that. I made that wrong. That's a tangent. I just noticed my drawing is over here for the tree. Now it's tangent to that post edge. That's got to be taken care of. That is what I call a tangent. See how it all comes to a point there? And I have a drawing, I noticed, right out to here. So let's just rub that out. So see, sometimes when you're painting, you don't really realize certain things that what you're doing. And this is lighter, so I'm rubbing it out. I'm going to attract it like this, detract it from there, put some light back into it. Now I'm going to wet it and float my color back in there and make it a little bit lighter than the post. And then I'll come back in with a dark in there, and now it's not tangent anymore. And that's drawing. That was just what I'm painting. I was not looking at where my drawing was. So always make sure your drawing it looks good. That's number one most important thing about your painting is your drawing. Draw it up well. That is a little bit too dark, but let's add a little bit of paint to that. All right, time to get into here, into the chairs, because I'm in my detail stage now, my dark detail stage. Because I have all my big darks, my big mediums, and so that's detail stage. And this painting has a lot of those. And actually, so first thing I'm going to do is my shadow, my large shadows on the ground from the chairs and the table down here. And some of you were asking, well, what kind of color? In class, they were asking, what color should I use there? Because it's light. Well, it's the same color as this object, so it would be these colors that you already have in your palette, right? So use the same colors that you used for this stuff, because that's what it's on the same surface, white, like a white gray surface. So you use the same thing. And so I'm just going to go in here and just put this in there. The lines are lines, so you don't have to really float anything there. So just make your lines, draw your lines in. And then when you do your bigger area, like the area where it's actually floating the pigment, because all pigment floats, all pigment has to float. So then you wet it, and then you apply paint into there. And then there's also the round circle from there, from this glass table. You also get that. It's a little bit lighter, but follow. And actually, if you need to draw this in, draw in where your shadows are going to be, because they're going to be pretty much darker anyway. So go ahead and make them a little bit darker. Or don't make them light, but draw them in. If you need to draw in your shadows, that's perfectly fine. I'd rather see a nicely drawn shadow than a shadow that doesn't look right. Because drawing, again, is number one. You have to have the drawing right. And so here I've got all these little shadows, and I'll add a few extra just so there's a lot of little things going on in there. And see how that's just one color? I don't like just one color, so I'll add a little bit more color. Once it's wet, you float other colors in there. You can make it a little bit darker. And again, look at how it's repelling my masking fluid. And so I know that parts of it is not light over there, but parts of it are. So what I can do is when I take it off, I can make it dark or light, but I'll have it there anyway, so that it's a lot easier than trying to paint around things. And actually, it gives it kind of a neat look. This is one time I really think the masking fluid will make it look better. And I would say an easier way of making that ironwork to look really neat. What is this line right here? Oh, it's a little bit darker going back. There's a really dark right here, shadow. I'm using my flat brush. Any questions? Hey Tina, hey Maura. Oh, that's so much better with the air conditioning. I think I would have passed out by the end or gotten really drunk because of this beer. It still tastes very good with this weather. All right, so now I have to wait for things to dry so I can have the masking fluid come off. And so up there, it's all dry. And while this is drying, the masking fluid, let me show you how to use the liner brush. This is called a fine liner painting pen. It's I know it's 4 words, but that's all I can find it being named. And I think some calligraphers use it. And all you do for darks is I'll take one of my brushes. Let's take my big round, wet it, and I'll use black or a little bit of brown and black. I'll make it really dark, and then I'll take a little bit of water. Make sure you have enough water because it's got to be runny. And I just scrape it across the top, let it float inside there. I'm just scraping it in, scraping out the side of my brush and letting it float inside there. And it's amazing how long it lasts. You know, it goes a long time because it's, you know, it's just a bunch of water with dark. And if it's too thick, it will not come out. So, and also to start it sometimes, because I may have to, let me just wipe it off the edge here so I don't get anything on my painting. If it doesn't start right away, then there's a needle in the handle. If I turn this handle, if I turn it like this, there's a needle inside. See this little needle there? I don't know if you can see it through the light. There's a needle, and then you just stick it inside there, or you can stick it in this on the bottom here. Just stick it into the little hole, and then it looks like it's going to come out. So I have to do that. But then you can unclog it with the needle. So you can use masking fluid, which is what I used. That's how I got the masking fluid on here. And then you just go ahead and draw like with a pen or a ruler. See how easy this is? Look at that. This goes right down. It's just like a pen. Now I shouldn't do this because it's wetting it. Now we'll be able to take the masking fluid off again. Okay, let me do it up here. Let me do some stuff up here. Well, that you understand now how to do it, and so, well, then I can't do it up there either. Let's do it over here. Here I did not take any masking fluid off, so I'm going to put a line in here. And if it comes out too fast, then add a little bit more pigment. So, because sometimes it comes out too fast, it bubbles out, and it comes out too quick because then it's too liquidy. So it has to be just the right amount of pigment to water ratio. But it's usually not that hard. It's very simple to just take, like, I mean, how hard was that? I put it on there, put it in there, and if it's too wet, it'll drip out. Just put more pigment, thicker pigment in there, and mix it a little bit. Here I can do a little bit of this. I can make a dark line. You can sign it down here. I don't want to sign it right now, but see how fine the line gets. And they have different weights of this too. They have 0.5 and they have 0.25, so it's a little bit thinner. So let me put this aside here, and I'm just gonna rest it on my palette because nothing's gonna happen if I just rest it there. Actually, if I touch it down, then it's all gonna come out. So I gotta build a holder for it so it doesn't touch anything. Let me take the masking fluid off, and I like to take it off with Nita rubber eraser or a rubber cement pickup. And so I can do over here. And since I'm working on that board and not working on Stonehenge is a hard time with ripping the paper because it's kind of soft paper. This is a little bit tougher paper, so it's coming off really easily. So I'm just going on there. It's not ripping anything. There I have it. Actually ripped right there because it's still wet right there. You know, don't do it while it's wet because if it's wet, you're going to rip paper. Yeah, you can use an eyedropper, definitely. Yeah. But you have to mix it somehow. You gotta mix the paint and then put the eyedropper there, pull it up from your palette, and then an eyedropper that works fine too. But here, look at it, it's too much, a little bit too wet right there. So I'll blot that up a little bit. But I still gotta get all this masking fluid off here. How easy this is. We're taking just take a needle rubber eraser or rubber cement pickup. You know that you can use that too. Look at how nice these lines are now. You know, I can just put a dark in there, and this, if you get a good hold of this masking fluid too, you can take it off one by one whole thing. See, it kind of just all comes off at once, all together. You know, watch out, I'm really close to that. Really close to that wet spot I put in there. I know this is not very exciting to watch me taking off masking fluid. Sorry about that. Has to be done though. And with anything, anytime you get something new, a new toy, a new instrument, just always make sure that you test it on something other than your painting. Don't go right away and do it on your painting because you're not sure how it works, and so you could ruin a really beautiful painting that you just spent a lot of time on. Now I'm gonna wipe off a little bit of this dark thing I just did because we gotta get going here. I don't have time to let this dry. So I'm just gonna take this off. I find a needle rubber eraser is nice too because then it wipes off your line work too, your pencil lines. And I know a lot of people don't like pencil lines on their work. I really don't mind pencil lines. I find them to be fine. They're just fine with me. All right, so there's all my masking fluid off, except for up here. Little things up here. Yeah, let's take that dark off. A couple people in class decided not to put those in there. It's up to you. You can put them on or not. I kind of like them because they're another little effect of the kind of like that swirly look. Now I'm not going to use the painting pen because it kind of gives me too nice a line, and I want to make it not so nice. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rigger brush, and I'm just going to go in here and make some of these lines dark and more of a wispy look, and that's so perfect. I mean, my paintings, I don't want sometimes to look like a photograph. I want them to have a little bit of like look of a painting. So a brush work that is a little bit more loose, you know, I like that look, and so I don't want to have everything look like. And also with a brush, I can make a thick to thin line. With that, it's one size. I have to go back and forth to make it thicker. So that's how come this part right here got a little bit thicker because I went back and forth. So I'll do the dark side of some of this, and then here I can make the. And so basically, I'm drawing with my rigger brush. And a rigger brush is nice because it holds a lot of paint, and you can go quite a distance with it. And it's like you're drawing with a pencil, basically. I hold it like a pencil, so you kind of hold it, and I'm just drawing with it. I'm just drawing, and I try to do every line that I start. I try to finish it in one brush stroke. I don't go slow. I just go and give it a little bit thicker and a constant brush stroke. Otherwise, it looks jaggedy and it kind of looks like a little bit too like you're working too hard for it. This looks fresher if you just start and go. Here I ripped a little bit of paper over there. I can tell because it was wet again. There's a little masking fluid in my brush now. Great question on the eyedropper too, by the way. Thanks, Pamela, for that, because I never thought about that, using eyedropper. Sometimes it's the simplest things you don't think about, you know, and then you're just like, yeah, an eyedropper would probably work really good. That's why it's fun to take live classes, and even like live like here tonight, live, and to find people always have good answers and good ideas and questions and stuff. So I really enjoy that, the fact that you guys are out here, and man, look at, we just learned that you can use an eyedropper to fill it up, and you learned hopefully that you can use a fine line painting pen to get your masking fluid down. I'm just going in here, getting some of the darks inside here, a little bit more details. Let's see how it just livens it up. Thanks, Tina, for telling everybody to hit the like button. Thank you so much. Helps a little bit. In here. And when you're doing details, it's just basically patience and going slowly and looking at your picture and getting what you see and making things look like what they are. You know, it's just, that's a little bit tougher. I mean, because it takes time. You don't want to rush this part because you rush this, unless you have a really, really loose style, then it's okay. But it has to show what you're doing then. I mean, this is what shows that these chairs are made of and what it looks like, and how detailed you get is up to you too. How detailed do you get? Do you get photorealistic, or do you just go more abstractish, textury? There's so many different styles, and that's what's so fun, that everybody has a different style. And anytime you want to have questions on your painting, for anybody who's new here, just please submit it to my YouTube, not my YouTube, my Facebook group. And if you're not on the group and you want to send it to my email address, I will also look at it, and I can give you answers if you have some questions about you want to critique or anything. And thanks to those of you that sent me all your images for my critique for the newsletter this week. And thanks for liking that. It was kind of long. I'm sorry it was that long. It was, but I want to get through everybody's. Here I'm just putting in some of the darks that I lost when I took the masking fluid off because I ripped a little bit. Put a little bit dark in there. That could be shadows in the back. Here, and you notice I'm just using grays and darker colors in my palette here. Let's go down here. All details. Now I just noticed I'm missing the shadowing on top of the chair too, because there's some, this table has got shadows right here too. So I'm just going to put those in like that. This table actually has grid work inside that you can't tell, but there's actually like grid work in here. You see through the table. So I'll put a little bit of texture in the table and then show it into the shadow. And over here, I'm just going to fake this ironwork that's over here because it's like a lot of, yeah, something like that. You don't have to be perfect with that. Now back here in the shadow, there's a little bit of architectural substance there from the wall. There's like little carved out area, and so I can show that a little bit by making it look a little carved. I can make this a little bit darker. Not sure if that looks great or not, but that's all it's going to be. And actually, I am going to make, well, let's put these shadows in there first too. There's these shadows that come off the chair that come right here, and just go in the back here, and they're, and again, if you don't know where these are, draw them in with a pencil first. Because again, you go around here, you go dark. And they're really neat. I mean, that's what's so neat about these things, that they make it really look cool that there's shadows across that. And also from the leaves and branches up here, there's a little bit of reflections. Yeah, thanks, ma'am. I just noticed that with the scroll work underneath the tabletop. That I'm just going to put in a little texture. And I'm going to put the stuff on top of the table because I kind of like that. And then I'm going to make this bush back here a little bit darker. Oh, this air conditioning feels so good. I have it blowing right on me, so it feels so much better. Thank you for letting me put it on. I'm glad it doesn't, and not that loud. I thought this microphone really picks things up, and it's nothing more annoying than a hum in the background. Oh, there's a train. Can you hear that? Putting this little dark in there. And that just is the dark part of that tree, and then I can make it also clean up the little white edges and stuff. And now I'm gonna put a little bit of shadow in this stuff up here, only because it needs to have a little shadow. And figure out where your light's coming from. It's coming from the left, going to the right. So then this can have the shadow on the side here. I'm just, one thing I really wanted to put across on this painting again is about how I showed you the making it black and white, and really make your paintings that way, because you really can tell them the design and how easy it is to paint. I mean, look how easy it was to paint when it comes to knowing where your lights and darks are going to be. You know, all these are darks, and so anything else in the light just has to be lighter. I will put, this seems a little bit too light right there, so let me show you how to do there. And because this is a little bit darker, so I'll wet it as I go along here. Remember, I did that mistake here anyway, so this will give me a chance to kind of make that right again. So I'm going to wet this with water and then apply paint inside there. Let it float. And then just take some color, float it in there, make it darker. It will still look fresh. It'll still look fresh because I'm adding water, and I'm just applying it right into the wash, letting it float. It'll be nice and fresh looking. I have to stay away from my light areas though. And up here I can show the texture of this tree by negative painting it. I'm going to take and make this a little bit darker and wetting as I go along. I'm really lightly wetting it, and then I'm going to apply paint to it. This is just got too light, and so, you know, why not just go back in, wet it, and apply more paint. But you have to wait till it dries. Always wait till things dry, and then reapply your water, and just apply more paint on top of that. Thick. You can apply it nice and thick. Let it float. I can even bring it in here because that's already dark. But see how now it just pushes back? And I could do the same. Oh, sorry about that. I could do the same on this side, but this side I kind of like that big brightness over there. Let me put a little bit over this. A little shadowing there. Also here a little bit more shadow to show the side. Maybe a little shadow on top of there. All right, now the shadow on top of the tree. How far are we going here? Oh, we got a couple minutes left, so it would be perfect timing. Any questions? And actually, Maria is the one that got me back on this board. Thank you, Maria. She brought some to class one time, and I really enjoyed this board. It's always the one I used to work on. It's I'm going to start making my own boards with Stonehenge, but I've got to glue them all down on board until they are going to make their own. They're going to apply their paper to a board coming up. I'm not sure when it's going to be available yet. It should be available in a couple months, or maybe it is already. I haven't asked them in a while. So here, make this a little bit darker. And let's make this darker up here. Now it's like a darker green. I'm just applying it right on top of there, and because I want to spatter a little bit, I'm just going to go really close to it. And that's too blue, too blue. I just want to make this a shadow. This has to be darker. This has to be darker in there, but also I want to make it textury. The shadowing. And it doesn't have to be as dark as it is in the picture. I do like the texture though, to make it look like a pine tree that it is. A little fern that they trimmed really nicely. All right, now I'm going with some opaques, and it all ran out of the painting pen. I will sign it though. Let me show you when I get done here. One more thing, and then I'll sign it with that. What's that going to do now? Oh, my thick paint. So the stuff on the table, and if I want to take a little bit thicker paint and use some gouache on it, I'm going to take some white gouache or some gray gouache. Gouache is opaque watercolor, and it really covers up a really decent amount of the paint. And so I can put a light on top of a dark, and so here's a little gray. Just going to use that for, and maybe a little bit of white I'll use here. And this is thick. This is not thin. This is not transparent. This is very thick. But hey, yeah, to me, I like that look. I like when it just is on top. To me, it reminds me of an oil painting brushstroke because I can make it nice and thick, and it actually physically comes forward. You can even use white paint of your watercolor. You can use that too. It's fine. It makes it opaque, your watercolor. And I'm going to put little hits of light to make things sparkle. Because glass sparkles, and so does the metal. It can sparkle by putting little dots on places. And I can even put some yellow into that and make it like a orangey green. Make it thick, and then I can even add that to the side of here to make it more textury. If I didn't get it done right exactly with my negative painting. And I think that is almost it, guys. Yeah, this is not bad, this board, because it still is watercolor paper on top of the board. So I like the fact that it'll stay flat, for one, and you can use thinner paper to make it thick and not warp on you. One more thing is there's a shadow across this chair from this arm piece right here. So let's just put that in there. And I think I'm good. Let's put a little bit of shadow in there. Just gonna make it a little bit darker here. A little texture. There's no tape to take off today because it's all part of the board. But of course, I'm working on my towel, so it's not gonna be a great looking. It's not gonna have an edge on it. It's not gonna have a white little mat around it, so it won't look as nice. But I have to start making a mat for things I can put on afterwards. But that was today now. This was this evening's, and this was this afternoon's. And always a little bit better in the afternoon or in the evening because I learn so much from when I'm doing the painting in the afternoon and then do it again in the evening. So any questions, if you can still ask away and to the section of the description part of the video. You can always ask questions afterwards once we leave here. And please have your friends subscribe, and please like the button if you like it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. Actually, it doesn't matter even if you put thumbs down, it still counts as like somebody being involved. So if you don't like it, you can put a thumbs down. That's fine with me. But I'd rather you put a thumbs up. All right, and so until next Thursday, and again, let me just show you one more time the value study. We still got 2 minutes left. So I want to, again, remember making your paintings, your photographs, turn them black and white, and you can see the big picture of dark and light. And this way, this kind of middle tone, you can assign it to either the light or the dark of your painting. And I know it's not that dark when you paint it, but it gives you the value pattern, the pattern that you want to kind of keep when you're doing your painting. And it doesn't mean that they have to be black like this, but it gives you the nice, simple pattern of light and dark. I hope that you understand it after all these 3 weeks I've been talking about it. Hopefully you did. And we will see you possibly on Sunday. I do either a outside not paint along, I do an outside demonstration, a plein air demonstration, or I'll be in my studio depending on what I'm working on at the time. I just put on my camera to show you what I'm doing at that time. It's not a paint along. If you want to paint along, you can. I don't give you the picture because a lot of times I don't know what I'm going to be painting on Sunday. But I'll either see you Sunday or I'll see you next Thursday. All right? If you have questions, let me know. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Cheers, everybody.